Hi everyone, I'm Barclay Loggie. Welcome to another mini make tutorial. We're still in lockdown and we're about to start our 5th week of lockdown. So I've got another rainbow jewelry project for you to do today. And it's a little pair of earrings and they literally are rainbows. So this is what they look like. They're quick to make, they're fun to wear, and you're sure to smile while wearing them, and if you're not wearing them and someone else is, you probably smile when you see them wearing them. So it's just a tiny mini tutorial to keep us cheerful during these tough times. We'll take a look at what we're going to use first of all, and we'll start with the seed beads up at the top here. So I've got size 8 seed beads. You could use size 11s, you could use delicas, you could use 15s. The 8s just bead up a bit quicker, and they're slightly bigger for me to show you when I'm doing a demo. So the colours from left to right, and I will list these in the comments below, are Orchid lined crystal, Duracoat silver lined light amethyst, matte transparent Capri blue AB, matte transparent Chartreuse AB, love that name, silver lined light gold, coral lined crystal, and the red is actually called a salmon. So I will list those. You can use whatever colours you want. I just went for 7 colours that reminded me of the colours of the rainbow to get going. So that's your size 8 seed beads. I'm actually using an 8-pound fire line this time because I've got some hanging around and I don't often use it. It's a bit thicker than the 6-pound, but because we're using 8s and the hole sizes of the beads are large, 8-pound is absolutely fine. I've got some shepherd hooks. I've got some little jump rings, which is what I used to attach the ear wire to the ring. I've got some rings, but I'm going to talk to you more about those later. I've got my size 10 beading needle. I've got some hypo cement, some glue, just to dab on the initial knot that we use when we are attaching our thread to the ring. I've got 2 sets of pliers. That's to open and close my jump rings and to open and close the ear wires. I think that's it for now, but I'm going to talk to you about the rings because not everybody has got these in their stash. So you might have an open large jump ring that you can use, and if you with your pliers line those 2 ends up neatly, more neatly than they are now, use my right hand so I've got a bit more oomph here. If you can line them up so that they're closed and dab a bit of clear nail varnish over that opening, you will get, leave it to dry, and you will get a closed jump ring. It also doesn't matter on the size that you're using. So these ones measure about 1 centimetre across that opening there. These are slightly bigger. But now this, for those of you who know me, you don't often see me working with wire. So your wire work could be a lot neater, but I've made my own loop here using 0.8mm wire. I used my baling pliers to form the big loop, and I used the bigger size, and then I used the smaller size to form the loop at the top, and that counts out having the need to have a jump ring. So you've got your big loop to bead around, and you've got a small loop at the top which acts as your jump ring to add onto your ear wire. You could also hammer this, hammer it flat. It will work harden it and give it a bit more texture. So you don't need to have the actual rings. You can make your own. And the very first part of this tutorial, I'm going to show you my dreadful wire working skills, but show you how a non-wire worker can even get this right. So as I mentioned, we're going to look at making our own rings to begin with, and I have to apologize, I am not a wire work. You are all a lot more advanced with your wire work than I am, but it's just something simple and quick to do in case you don't have a solid ring that you can use in your stash. So I'll leave that one there so we can just see it. I've cut a piece, I don't know, it's 10 to 15 centimeters, not crucial how long it is. I'm going to take my bail making pliers and I'm going to grip the wire. I'm probably not even using these correctly, but what I do works, so it's fine by me. I've gripped the wire so that it's around the largest, and I'm just going to pull the wire with my fingers, and I'm gently going to move, or slowly going to move the baling pliers around as I do it, until I've got my wires crossing over there. Then I'm going to twist to connect those wires together. I'm just twisting round, keeping the wire between my baling pliers, just like so. So I've got my big loop there. And now I need to do the smaller loop. So I'm going to pop my pliers in, and I'm using the second smallest size now. And again, I'm going to just wind the wire around, but I'm going to change my baling pliers around so that I don't get a little notch. You can hear I'm tongue-tied doing wire work. It's not my forte. So I've now got a smaller loop and a bigger loop. And again, what I want to do is just bring that wire round to connect the two together. Now you can take your time with this and make your join a lot neater than mine. So if I whip those out now, you can see I've distorted this one slightly. But then what I did was I just took my normal flat nose pliers and I turned the smaller loop on its at 90 degrees to the bigger loop so that it acts as a jump ring. And then you just need your cutters to snip off your excess wire. Now the one I did for you earlier is actually a lot neater than this one because I've been rushing through this one. And I am not a wire worker. So you get the idea of making the big loop and then the smaller loop on the top. And if you just turn it 90 degrees, that will then fit beautifully onto your ear wire or your shepherd's hook, and your beadwork will form below. So that's the first little part. We're now going to get on to what I feel a lot more comfortable with, and that's the bead. Back in my comfort zone, feeling much, much happier. Right, so I've set out my 7 beads in my little piles, my 7 different colors, and I've got one of my rings. You might have an open jump ring that you've sealed with some clear nail varnish, or you may have attempted to make your own, as I tried to show you a minute ago. So I've now threaded on 1 meter of my thread onto my needle. And I'm going down towards the tail end and I'm going to attach this to my ring. I'm just going to start out by tying a normal overhand knot. And then the second time I'm going to pass that thread through the loop once, through the loop twice, and pull it tight. Right, I'm ready to start beading. So I'm going to start with this palest color. I'm working from left to right, and starting with whatever your first color is, you're going to start by picking up 2. And you're going to pass the needle under the ring. And I'm holding my forefinger there to keep those beads on the top side of my ring. So I'm just popping them there. And then what I'm going to be doing is I am going to be passing the needle back up through the second bead, from the bottom of the bead to the top. And this is all done with brick stitch. So when you put a bit of tension on your thread, it pulls those first 2 beads into line, and they are sitting around the outside of that ring. We're now going to pick up 1 at a time. So picking up 1 of my 8s, I pass the needle under the ring, keeping my finger there to keep the bead on the right side. And then to secure it, I'm going to pass the needle back up through that bead from the base to the top and pull my threads into place. You can see there's a big gap there. As soon as you give it a little tug, it pulls it up snugly against the one before. So you're going to continue adding your first colour in this way until you have enough. Now I have worked with the 8s, you might be working with 11s or 15s, so it'd be slightly different. I've worked with the 8s and worked out that I need 9 of the 8s in that first row. So I'll come back to you when I'm ready to change over. Right, I've added 9 of my 8s in my first colour to the outside of that ring. Now you might want to add 10 or 11, you might want to come further around than have it like I've got it. So it's all up to you. What I would just suggest you do is you take your hypo cement and you pop a dab of glue, as I have done, on that very initial knot at the beginning here when you added the thread to your ring. So we're ready to bead the second layer now with the second colour. And I like to bead when I'm doing the brick stitch from right to left, so I've flipped it over. That was how it ended with my thread on the right. And I'm now flipping it over so my thread is on the left. When we started this round, we picked up 2 to begin with. We're now only going to be picking up 1 at a time. And I'm going to give you some hints and tips along the way to try and keep this outer line as straight and neat as possible. Because you're not beading the whole way around your ring, doing a whole circle. It's a little more difficult to get a defined line. So I'm going to pick up the first of my second colour. And I'm now looking at the thread bridges that are formed between the 2 8s. And I'm going to pass the needle under that first thread bridge between number 1 and 2 of the first round. And you'll see it sits slightly on its side, and you can move it into place a little with your fingers. And again, to secure it, you're going to pass the needle back up through that bead from the base to the top. And I'm just putting my thumb over it to hold it in place as I pull my thread through. And you'll see it sits quite neatly on top of the first one. I'm going to pick up my second bead now for this round, and I'm going to use that same thread bridge, the one that I've just used between the first and second bead of the previous round, to add my second bead. This will just budge them up quite neatly together and keep them tight and help keep this outer edge straight. So again, to secure it, pass the needle back up through the bead from the bottom to the top. And you can see I've started on my second row. So I'm going to continue now with the second row, and I'm moving on to the next thread bridge between the second and the third bead from the previous round to add my third bead. Now you can see that as we move on to each colour, the arc that we're beading gets bigger and bigger, so we're using more and more beads. So I want you to continue beading this row. I'm going to do it with you. So I'm now moving on to the third thread bridge between the third and the fourth bead to add my fourth. But when I add my fifth bead of this round, I might use that same thread bridge again, just to keep things tight. I don't want any gaps, so I'm going back under the same thread bridge because it's a bit of a leap to the next one, and I don't want a big gap, and passing the needle back up through that bead. So I'm going to keep going in that same manner, using the thread bridges, using some of them twice if need be, and others just once. So I'm moving on to the next one now, and I'm in the right place to go straight between those two and join it up. So when I get to the end of this row, and as we start the third row, I'm going to show you another little tip or trick on how to keep this end neat. I'm near the end of the row now, And there's still a fairly large gap there, but I'm only going to be adding one more of my second colour, and that's going to pass under the thread bridge between the last two beads from the previous round, and I'm passing back up through the bead to secure it. But when I pull it straight, you'll see that it's now at a slight angle. They aren't exactly in line, so to help pull that outer edge into line, before I start on my third colour, I'm going to pass down through the two beads to the left of my outer rim, and then I'm going to pass back up through those last two, and that will just pull the two into a better line with each other. And then I'm ready to start my third row, or my third colour. So I'm picking up one at a time, passing under the first thread bridge and back up through the bead that you've just added to secure it. And you'll see I've come across a little. So I'm just rolling it with my thumb, rolling it over to the outside, and I'm going to pick up my second bead and I'm going to pass under the same thread bridge that I've just been under. And as I secure this in place, I'm holding the beads above those last two. So you can see they've moved right over now. They're not at an angle. Right, so we're going to keep adding our colours just as we're doing here, and I'll come back to you when I've done a couple more rows to see how you're getting on, and to see if there's any other tips or pointers I can give you to get those edges looking. You've all been steaming ahead like me, and you've now got a few rows of your rainbow done. I'm just going to show you that neatening up of the edge again. I've just added my last sixth colour, and I'm going to come down through the two beads to the left and back up through the two beads on the right, just to pull them into shape. And the other thing I want to say to you is, as you're beading along, you need to just ensure that your beads are lying flat. So just keep pressing them flat between your fingers. If it starts to curl, you're trying to add too many beads into one row. So take one out and just spread it out a little. Right, I'm going to bead my last colour, then I'll be back to you to show you how to end off your thread and add on. Look at all those beautiful colours. You can't tell me you're not smiling while you're looking at such a beautiful, bright, cheery scene. So we're going to end off our thread now, and instead of tying a knot like we did right at the beginning here, we're going to navigate through the beads like we're completing a maze. So we're just really going to tangle the thread up in the beads, and I'm not counting, I'm just seeing where the needle comes out and goes through. But I want to show you what you need to make sure you're doing is when you change direction to go down, your thread comes straight across. I'm coming out of a gold, I need to go down through a gold. So now my thread is coming out of a green. If I go across and up, I need to go up through a green. And it doesn't matter how many beads you go through at a time, as long as you're taking that thread straight across whenever you change direction. So I've come down through a gold, I'm going up through a gold. I'm going to come down through a gold and a green, and I'm going to go up through a green and a gold. Oh, and I've done the orangey colour as well. So when I change direction again, now I need to come down through the orange and the gold. Each time pulling your thread in so that your thread gets swallowed up between the rows of your colours. And I've come right up to the top there, so I'm going to come down through a few beads. This is just losing your thread in the beads, and then there's no way that it's going to come untangled. So then you will zap off or snip off your thread. And you will do the same with that one. And you are ready to add your jump ring and your shepherd's hook. Now, you need your 2 sets of pliers to open your jump ring, and I'm sure I am preaching to the converted. You all are total pros now. You know what you're doing with your findings. But there might be somebody new who's watching, who's taken up a new hobby during lockdown. I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera, but I can see a slight cut through the jump ring there, which is where it's going to open. And when we open a jump ring, we use 2 lots of pliers and we don't pull it apart that way because it will snap. You have to open it side to side like a door. So side to side like a door to open it up. And I'm going to pop the ring through that. And I'm going to close it by sliding it the opposite way. So close the door side to side the opposite way and just get those 2 ends lined up. If you pass slightly back where you started opening, you get a fairly neat finish there. Same thing goes for your ear wire. You open it to the side. You don't just pull this loop out that way because it will snap off here. I'm just going to take one end and open it to the side, and you can see it open there. And I'm going to slide my jump ring on and then close it to the side going the opposite way. So there it is, closed. So there you have your pair of rainbow earrings. I've been making loads. I've been sitting in the sunshine. We've had glorious sunshine in the UK, and I've just been making rainbows. And what I'm doing is I am gifting these to local key workers who live in the area, in the village that I live in. Just something to thank them for working tirelessly to keep us safe and to keep us going, whether they're delivering food or whatever they might be doing. And don't forget the blokes as well. Some of them might wear earrings, but you could always put one of your rainbows onto a key ring or onto a bookmark for the chaps. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the cheery little rainbows. Give us a thumbs up if you have, and remember to subscribe if you'd like to see more content when it's uploaded. I'll be back soon with a new tutorial, but in the meantime, thanks for watching. Stay safe and keep well.